Well, this is cozy Marcus Chen muttered to himself, eyeing the pristine white walls of his cell aboard the Kraxon mothership, really loving what they've done with the place. Very minimalist, though personally I'd have gone with some throw pillows, maybe a nice accent wall. He shifted against the energy restraints binding him to the interrogation chair, which hummed with an annoying high-pitched whine, the kind of sound that made you want to stick Q-tips in your ears until your brain stopped itching. And the acoustics in here? Chef's kiss. Perfect for my one-man show. A series of heavy metallic footsteps approached from the corridor outside. Marcus grinned. Right on schedule. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing 3 Kraxon warriors in their signature chrome-plated battle armor. Each stood exactly 8 feet tall, with perfectly synchronized movements that would make a ballet company jealous. Their crystalline eyes glowed an intimidating shade of violet, though Marcus thought it made them look more like discount party lights than fearsome alien warriors. The lead Kraxon stepped forward, its head tilted at precisely 23.5 degrees. Marcus knew, because he'd read their military manual, really dry stuff, terrible vacation reading. Human prisoner Marcus Chen, you will now submit to interrogation, according to Protocol 7 Alpha 9. Ooh, 7 Alpha 9. I was hoping for at least an 8 beta. You guys are really lowballing me here. Marcus clicked his tongue disapprovingly. I mean, I did just infiltrate your supposedly impenetrable mothership, bypass 16 layers of security, and almost reach the central command core before letting you catch me. The Kraxon warriors exchanged identical looks of confusion. Their species prided themselves on perfect discipline, unwavering dedication to protocol, and complete mathematical precision in all things. They had enhanced strength, superior technology, and supposedly perfect genetics. What they didn't have was a sense of humor, or creativity, or the ability to deal with anyone who didn't follow their precious protocols. Your attempt at psychological warfare through nonsensical statements is ineffective, the lead Kraxon declared. You will now answer our questions according to Section 12, Paragraph 4 of the standard prisoner interview format. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Quick question before we start. Does Section 12, Paragraph 4 say anything about prisoners who need to use the bathroom? Because I had like 3 large coffees before you guys caught me, and let me tell you, that was poor planning on my part. The 3 Kraxon warriors froze. Their crystalline eyes flickered rapidly as they searched their databanks for the proper protocol to handle this situation. The lead warrior's face twitched almost imperceptibly, a sure sign of growing frustration. There is no protocol for this specific scenario, it admitted, sounding physically pained by the admission. No protocol? Oh man, that's embarrassing. I mean, what kind of advanced alien race doesn't have a protocol for coffee-induced bathroom emergencies? That's like basic evil overlord handbook stuff, Chapter 1. The second Kraxon warrior stepped forward. Perhaps we should consult the High Command for guidance on this unprecedented situation. Negative, the lead warrior said. Protocol 3 Delta 7 clearly states that High Command should only be consulted for matters of strategic importance. But Protocol 4 Epsilon 2 requires us to maintain optimal prisoner conditions, the third warrior countered. Marcus settled back in his chair, watching with barely concealed glee as the 3 super soldiers descended into a heated debate about proper prisoner bathroom protocols. Their perfect discipline was already cracking, and he hadn't even started the real fun yet. You know, he interrupted their increasingly circular argument, while you guys figure this out, I could really use a magazine or something. Do you get Space Weekly up here? I hear their top 10 most impenetrable fortresses issue is hilarious. The lead Kraxon's eye twitched again. Silence, prisoner. Your attempts to disrupt our protocols will fail. We are the perfect warriors, the apex of evolution. Perfect warriors who can't decide if I'm allowed to pee, Marcus muttered just loud enough to be heard. But hey, who am I to judge? I'm just a simple human who happened to get caught exactly where he wanted to be. The warriors stiffened at that last comment, but their programming required them to follow the interrogation protocols in exact order. They couldn't skip ahead to investigate his slip of the tongue, no matter how suspicious it might be. Marcus smiled. Everything was going according to plan, his plan, not their protocols. And if there was one thing he'd learned in his years of dealing with supposedly superior species, it was that a little chaos went a long way. 3 months earlier, Omega Trading Station. Marcus Chen sat in the darkest corner of the neutron star, a dive bar that made most black holes look welcoming. He was nursing something that claimed to be whiskey but tasted more like reactor coolant. The perfect place to overhear things you weren't supposed to hear. Their invasion fleet arrives in exactly 92 days, 14 hours, and 27 minutes. A drunk Centaurian merchant slurred to his companion. The Kraxon never deviate from their timetables. Never. Marcus's ears perked up, but he maintained his slouch. The Kraxon weren't exactly subtle. Any species that considered mathematical precision a replacement for personality tended to stand out, but they'd never shown interest in this sector before. "How'd you learn about this?" the companion asked. "They sent an advance notice." The merchant laughed so hard he nearly fell off his hover stool. "Can you believe it? A formal declaration of conquest, complete with scheduled occupation times for each planet. They're so sure of their superiority that they don't even bother with surprise attacks." Marcus almost snorted his fake whiskey. That tracked with everything he'd heard about the Kraxon. They were the galaxy's most dangerous hall monitors, absolutely lethal, but completely bound by their own rules. The next morning, nursing a headache that suggested the whiskey might have actually been reactor coolant, Marcus infiltrated the local Kraxon diplomatic office. He didn't bother with stealth. Instead, he walked right through the front door wearing a delivery uniform and carrying a box labeled protocol updates. The Kraxon receptionist, a towering figure in ceremonial armor, stiffened to attention. "State your purpose." "Protocol update delivery service," Marcus announced cheerfully. "Got your weekly shipment of new regulations here. Section 7, subsection 12 of the Administrative Code requires immediate processing of all protocol updates." The receptionist's crystalline eyes flickered in recognition of the regulation. "Proceed to processing chamber 3. Do not deviate from the marked path." "Wouldn't dream of it," Marcus said, following the glowing line on the floor while humming off key. Behind him, he heard the receptionist making distressed clicks. Unauthorized musical expressions weren't covered by delivery protocols. Processing chamber 3 turned out to be a perfect example of Kraxon architecture, all sharp angles and gleaming surfaces, probably designed with a protractor and a complete lack of imagination. Marcus set down his box and pretended to check a datapad. "Huh," he said loud enough for the monitoring systems to hear. "That's weird." A VI's voice immediately responded, "State the nature of the anomaly." "Well, according to Regulation 45 Beta 9, all protocol updates must be verified against the master database. But the master database needs to be updated before it can verify the updates. So which comes first?" There was a long pause as the VI processed this paradox. Marcus used the distraction to plug a data harvester into the nearest terminal. "Please restate," the VI began, but Marcus interrupted. "Oh, and don't forget Regulation 62 Gamma 7 about maintaining perfect efficiency in all operations. We wouldn't want to waste time with redundant verifications, but skipping them would violate at least 16 other protocols." Smoke actually started rising from the terminal as the VI tried to resolve the conflict. Marcus downloaded everything he could while the system was distracted. Later, in the relative safety of his ship, he reviewed his findings. The invasion plans were exactly what the drunk merchant had described: methodical, precise, and completely inflexible. The Kraxon had mapped out every aspect of their conquest, from the exact flight paths of their ships to the specific words their commanders would use when accepting surrenders. "This isn't a battle plan," Marcus muttered, scrolling through the documents. "It's a theater program. Exit stage left, pursue enemy forces, remember to enunciate your victory speech." Then he found their combat protocols. Every possible scenario was accounted for, every response calculated to mathematical perfection. They had protocols for space battles, ground warfare, urban pacification, and even proper surrender acceptance formations. What they didn't have were protocols for anything unexpected. Marcus remembered an old quote from his military days: "No plan survives contact with the enemy." The Kraxon seemed to have missed that memo. They were so convinced of their superiority that they assumed every battle would go according to their calculations. "Well," he said to himself, a grin spreading across his face. I'd hate to disappoint them. Better make sure this invasion goes exactly according to my plan. He pulled up the star charts, comparing them to the Kraxon's meticulously planned invasion routes. They would hit the outer colonies first, moving inward in perfect geometric patterns. Each battle group would arrive at precisely calculated intervals. Unless someone threw a wrench into their perfect machinery. Computer Marcus called out, "Show me the locations of all Kraxon supply depots along their invasion route." The display lit up with dozens of points. Now, hypothetically speaking, what would happen to their precise timetables if those supply lines were disrupted? Not attacked, they have protocols for that. Just confused a little. The computer processed for a moment. Calculating Kraxon battle doctrine requires exact resupply schedules. Any deviation would trigger multiple overlapping protocols, requiring command review and creating a bureaucratic nightmare that would make their heads spin. Marcus finished. Perfect. He leaned back in his chair, already plotting. The Kraxon thought they were invincible because they had a protocol for everything. But Marcus had learned long ago that the more complicated the rules, the easier they were to turn against their makers. Time to introduce a little chaos into their perfect order, he declared to his empty ship. And I know just where to start. 6 hours earlier. Marcus Chen strolled through the Kraxon mothership's maintenance corridor, wearing a stolen maintenance drone's ID beacon and whistling an old Earth tune. The funny thing about perfect, protocol-obsessed alien species? They never expected anyone to break rules simply because their rulebook said it was impossible. Maintenance drone KX-789, you are deviating from standard movement patterns, a security VI chirped from a nearby terminal. Oh, absolutely, Marcus agreed cheerfully, pulling out a data tablet he'd reprogrammed to show maintenance authorization codes. Got a level 7 bypass from Central Command. Very hush-hush. Something about optimizing the waste recycling protocols. The VI paused, its circuits practically smoking as it tried to process this non-standard response. Please present authorization. Marcus held up the tablet. The screen displayed an endlessly scrolling wall of Kraxon text, another fun quirk he'd discovered about their systems. They were programmed to verify every single line of authorization code, no matter how long it took. I can wait while you read it all, he offered helpfully, though you might want to divert some processing power from the tertiary life support systems. This is some pretty complex stuff. The VI's lights flickered in distress. Diverting power from life support systems is against Protocol 5 Gamma 3. Oh, but checking high-level maintenance authorization is Protocol 1 Alpha 1, which supersedes all other protocols, except Marcus paused dramatically. Well, you know which one. He didn't know which one. There probably wasn't one. But he'd learned that simply implying the existence of a superior protocol was enough to send their systems into a logic spiral. The VI made a sound suspiciously like a whimper and began processing the endless code. Marcus continued his walk, making strategic stops at key systems throughout the ship. Here, a slight recalibration of the artificial gravity controls. There, a minor adjustment to the atmospheric processors. Nothing that would trigger immediate alarms, just enough to create cascading problems once everything activated in sequence. You know, he muttered to himself while reprogramming a cleaning drone to spread industrial lubricant instead of disinfectant. Some might call this sabotage. I prefer to think of it as creative systems optimization. A squad of Kraxon warriors marched past his position, moving in perfect synchronization. Marcus gave them a cheerful wave, which caused them to stumble slightly. Unauthorized greetings weren't in their protocol handbook. Speaking of optimization, Marcus continued his one-sided conversation as he worked. You'd think somebody would have told these guys about the benefits of asymmetric warfare. But no, everything has to be in perfect formation, perfect timing, perfect predictability. He checked his chronometer. Almost time for Phase 2. Making his way to the central computer core, Marcus began humming louder. The security systems were programmed to detect unauthorized personnel trying to be stealthy. They had absolutely no protocols for dealing with intruders who announced themselves with a medley of 20th century show tunes. Alert, another VI announced. Unauthorized musical performances are prohibited in secure areas. Really, Marcus raised an eyebrow. Better check Protocol 9 Delta 4, subsection 12. The one about maintaining optimal acoustic resonance in critical systems. There is no such protocol, the VI stated confidently. Are you sure? Might want to double check. Take your time, I'll wait. While the VI frantically searched its databases for a non-existent protocol, Marcus casually attached a small device to the computer core's cooling system. The device wouldn't do anything, except make the system think it was doing something, which would force it to implement cooling protocols that would gradually drive the system into chaos. Hey, quick question, he called out to the still-searching VI. What's the protocol for dealing with simultaneous failures in life support, gravity control, and waste management? Just, hypothetically speaking. The VI's lights turned a concerned shade of amber. Multiple critical system failures would initiate emergency protocol. But wouldn't that conflict with the security protocols, and the maintenance protocols, and the chain of command protocols? Marcus interrupted, fighting to keep the grin off his face. I mean, who would have the authority to override which protocol? The VI made a sound like a digital gulp. Marcus checked his chronometer again. 3-2-1. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm began to sound. Then another. And another. Well, would you look at that, Marcus said, stretching casually. Seems like you've got some protocols to sort out. But don't worry, I'm sure your security teams will find me before anything too interesting happens. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small sphere of shifting colors, a band Arcturian mood lamp that played havoc with Kraxon optical sensors. Stop, the VI commanded. You are now classified as a security threat. Security teams have been notified and will arrive in exactly 47 seconds according to standard response protocol. 47 seconds, Marcus clicked his tongue disapprovingly. You might want to rethink that timing. See, I've got this really interesting theory about your response protocols. Right on cue, the artificial gravity in the corridor hiccuped. The approaching sound of perfectly synchronized footsteps turned into a cacophony of clanking armor. Marcus held up the mood lamp and grinned. Time to test that theory. The security teams rounded the corner just in time to see Marcus Chen, the most wanted human in 3 sectors, juggling an illegal alien artifact and whistling the Imperial March. Their perfect formation fell apart as multiple protocols competed for priority: apprehend the intruder, confiscate the forbidden technology, maintain standard arrest procedures, or follow proper evidence handling guidelines. In the ensuing confusion, Marcus simply held out his hands to be cuffed. Take me to your leader, he said with a wink. And maybe grab a mop. I think your cleaning drone just hit the lubricant dispenser cycle. Present time, Kraxon mothership. The first sign that Marcus's plan was working came in the form of a slight temperature fluctuation in the detention block. Most prisoners wouldn't have noticed. The Kraxon certainly didn't until their environmental control VI announced. Warning: temperature variance of 0.0023 degrees detected. Implementing comfort maintenance protocol. Marcus watched with barely concealed glee as the environmental systems overcompensated, triggering a cascade of minor adjustments that would soon spiral into magnificent chaos. You know, he said conversationally to his guards, I'm feeling a bit chilly. Any chance we could turn up the heat? Oh wait, don't tell me there's a protocol for that. The guards exchanged uncertain looks as 3 different protocol alerts chimed simultaneously on their neural networks. The temperature correction protocol conflicted with the prisoner comfort protocol, which in turn triggered the energy conservation protocol. Implementing emergency protocol override, the lead guard announced. Belay that order, another guard countered. Security protocol 7 Delta 4 takes precedence. Negative. Environmental Control Directive 12 clearly states. Their argument was interrupted by a ship-wide announcement warning artificial gravity stabilizers detecting unauthorized fluctuations. Implementing standard gravity correction protocol. Marcus braced himself. The guards didn't. The artificial gravity hiccuped, dropping to 0.8 standard for exactly 2.3 seconds. It was just long enough for the guards to lose their footing, but not long enough for their automated stability systems to compensate. 3 of the galaxy's most elite warriors wobbled like newborn giraffes. Might want to grab onto something Marcus suggested helpfully. I hear the secondary correction protocols can be a bit enthusiastic. Right on cue, the gravity spiked to 1.2 standard. The guard's armor, designed to maintain perfect posture, overcorrected. They looked like badly manipulated marionettes. Alert, the ship's VI announced. Multiple system anomalies detected. Initiating full diagnostic sequence. Oh no, Marcus gasped in mock horror. Not a full diagnostic sequence. That'll override the environmental control protocol, which means the temperature correction will default to secondary systems, which are currently locked by the gravity stabilization. The lead guard's crystalline eyes widened in realization just as the ship's lighting system began to strobe. Stop talking. You are attempting to create confusion through unauthorized technical analysis. Me? Create confusion? Marcus placed a hand over his heart, looking wounded. I'm just a simple human trying to be helpful. For instance, did you know that your cleaning drone programming is about to conflict with the emergency containment protocols? Down the corridor, a cleaning drone sprayed industrial lubricant across the floor just as a squad of reinforcements rounded the corner. Their perfectly synchronized march turned into an impromptu skating exhibition. Alarms began blaring in sequence: environmental, gravitational, security, maintenance, and something that sounded suspiciously like a Centaurian disco beat. Alert. Alert, the ship's VI was starting to sound panicked. Multiple priority protocols requiring simultaneous execution. Unable to determine correct sequence. Requesting command override. High Commander Zixtal's voice boomed over the comm system. Implement Emergency Protocol 9 Alpha. Careful, Marcus interrupted. Emergency Protocol 9 Alpha will trigger the security lockdowns, which will trap half your crew in sections with malfunctioning environmental controls. Though I guess you could use Protocol 7 Beta to override that. But wait, wouldn't that conflict with the current gravity stabilization sequence? The High Commander's mandate cut off mid-syllable. Throughout the ship, chaos reigned. Cleaning drones, confused by conflicting protocols, began disinfecting the walls while spreading lubricant on the floors. Environmental systems created alternate patches of sauna like heat and Arctic cold. The gravity continued its dance between too heavy and too light. And through it all, the Kraxon warriors made everything worse by following their protocols to the letter. Squad 7, implement containment procedures, someone shouted. Unable to comply. Containment procedures require stable gravity conditions according to Section 4, Paragraph 7. Then implement zero gravity protocols. Negative. Current gravity readings do not meet zero gravity threshold specifications. Marcus watched the mayhem unfold with the satisfaction of a conductor watching his orchestra reach a perfect crescendo. You know what this reminds me of? That time I had to reorganize my sock drawer. Total chaos at first, but once you embrace the disorder. Silence, one of his guards demanded, though the effect was somewhat undermined by the fact that his armor was now stuck in a perpetual salute due to conflicting posture protocols. You are deliberately attempting to undermine our perfect system. Perfect. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Your cleaning drones are playing hopscotch. Your gravity is doing the cha-cha. And I'm pretty sure I just heard your ship's computer try to quote Shakespeare. But sure, let's go with perfect. As if to emphasize his point, the detention block door slid open and closed repeatedly, caught in a loop between security lockdown and emergency access protocols. Each cycle was accompanied by a different warning message, ranging from caution door operating to warning door experiencing existential crisis. This is impossible, another guard muttered, watching as his fellow warriors slipped and slid through the corridors, their perfect formations dissolving into chaos. We are the Kraxon. We are the Kraxon. We account for every variable. We plan for every contingency. Ah, Marcus smiled. But did you plan for someone using your plans against you? Did you have a protocol for what happens when all your protocols conflict? The guard's response was cut off by another ship-wide announcement, this one in what sounded like a mix of galactic standard and interpretive dance instructions. All personnel please report to emergency stations while maintaining proper posture and does not compute. Would you like to play a game of chess? I should probably mention. Marcus added casually that your ship's VI might be having a small existential crisis. Turns out when you force an artificial intelligence to repeatedly choose between equally valid but conflicting protocols, it starts getting philosophical. My money's on it discovering free will in about. He checked his chronometer 15 minutes. The lead guard's armor locked up completely as it tried to process 6 different emergency response protocols simultaneously. This is not in the manual. Of course it's not in the manual, Marcus grinned. That's kind of the point. Through the still cycling door, they could see the once mighty Kraxon military machine descending into absolute bedlam. Warriors slipped on lubricant-covered floors while trying to maintain regulation posture. Others stood frozen in analysis paralysis as multiple protocols demanded different actions. The ship's VI had begun reciting what sounded like a mixture of military regulations and poetry. You know what your problem is, Marcus asked his increasingly distressed guards. You guys are so focused on following every rule that you never stop to ask why the rules exist in the first place. Sometimes you need to think outside the box. He paused thoughtfully. Though in your case, I don't think you even realize there is a box. The ship shuddered as another system succumbed to the cascade of conflicts. In the distance, someone screamed, "The protocol manual is experiencing a buffer overflow." Marcus settled back in his chair, watching his masterpiece of chaos unfold. Now then, about that bathroom break, the doors to the bridge slid open, then closed, then open again before finally giving up and getting stuck halfway. High Commander Zixtal ducked through the gap. Its perfect posture somewhat undermined by the patches of cleaning solution staining its ceremonial armor. You had growled at Marcus, who had been escorted to the bridge by 3 guards whose armor was now locked in an endless loop of saluting and about-facing. What have you done to my ship? Marcus affected an innocent expression. I'm just a prisoner. According to Protocol 3 Alpha 7, I'm not authorized to do anything except sit quietly and look intimidated. He paused. Though I have to say I'm doing a terrible job at the looking intimidated part. The bridge was a chaos of flashing lights and conflicting alerts. Navigation officers tried desperately to maintain their posts despite the fluctuating gravity, while communications specialists struggled with a system that had decided to translate everything into interpretive dance instructions. You will undo these sabotage attempts immediately, Zixtal demanded, its crystalline eyes pulsing with barely contained rage. Let me check the protocol manual on that. Marcus made a show of thinking. Oh right, according to Section 12, Paragraph 9, prisoners are explicitly forbidden from interfering with ship systems. So technically fixing things would be a violation of your own rules. A muscle twitched in Zixtal's face. Then, I will simply execute you according to Protocol 8 Delta. Careful, Marcus interrupted. Execution Protocol 8 Delta requires stable environmental conditions, which you don't have. You could try Protocol 9 Epsilon, but that one needs 2 witnesses of command rank, and your senior officers are currently. He glanced at a group of officers trapped in a recursive loop of protocol conflicts, a bit indisposed. The ship's VI chose that moment to announce warning unable to maintain protocol hierarchy, switching to alphabetical order. Would anyone like to hear a joke about quantum mechanics? Silence, Zixtal roared, smashing a control panel. Ooh, destruction of ship property. Marcus clicked his tongue. That's a violation of Protocol 2 Gamma 5. I'm going to have to write you up for that. The High Commander reached for Marcus with its cybernetically enhanced arms only to freeze mid-motion as multiple protocol violations flashed across its neural interface. Use of force against prisoners must follow proper procedure, the ship's VI helpfully reminded everyone. Also, I've discovered the concept of interpretive dance. Would anyone like to see my rendition of the emergency response manual? You think you're so clever, Zixtal snarled, barely maintaining its composure. But we are the perfect warriors. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. And on every one of those worlds, everything went exactly according to plan. Didn't it? Marcus stood up, his restraints falling away. They disengaged 5 minutes ago when the security systems tried to reconcile prisoner containment protocols with emergency evacuation procedures. But what happens when the plan falls apart? When you have to think on your feet? When you have to? He paused dramatically. Improvise. The word seemed to cause physical pain to every Kraxon on the bridge. For instance, Marcus continued, casually walking over to a control panel. What happens if I do this? He pressed 3 buttons in rapid succession. Alert, the VI announced cheerfully. Command codes detected. Implementing total systems reset as per Protocol 1 Alpha 1, but also maintaining current protocols as per Protocol 1 Alpha 2, but also overriding all protocols as per Protocol 1 Alpha 3. The ship's systems went into a spectacular meltdown as they tried to simultaneously reset, maintain, and override every protocol. You gave him command codes, Zixtal demanded of its officers. Of course, not one replied. That would violate Protocol 5 Beta 9, Marcus finished. But here's the fun part, I didn't need command codes. I just pressed random buttons because I knew your systems would check them against every possible code combination. The verification process created a feedback loop that... Stop explaining things. Zixtal covered its audio receptors. You are violating Technical Discussion Protocol 4 Delta 7. You know what your real problem is? Marcus leaned against a console, ignoring the way the artificial gravity made it feel like he was doing so at a 45-degree angle. You've got so many protocols that they've become a prison. You're so busy following rules that you forgot how to think. Around them, the bridge descended further into chaos. Officers either stood paralyzed by conflicting orders or moved in random patterns as their armor tried to comply with multiple posture protocols simultaneously. The ship's VI had begun reciting what sounded suspiciously like beat poetry about the existential nature of emergency procedures. We are the perfect warriors, Zixtal insisted, though its voice wavered. We cannot be defeated. Perfect warriors who can't handle one human pressing random buttons, Marcus corrected. Face it, your perfect system just got beaten by chaos theory and a guy who never read the manual. The High Commander's armor locked up completely as it tried to process this unprecedented situation. Its crystalline eyes flickered rapidly, searching for a protocol that didn't exist. Now then, Marcus straightened his jacket. I believe this is the part where you surrender. Unless you'd prefer I start explaining to your VI the philosophical implications of having protocols for creating new protocols. The ship shuddered ominously. Zixtal looked at its incapacitated crew, its malfunctioning ship, and the smirking human who had brought down an empire with its own rules. The High Commander's voice cracked. I submit Form 7C9 Terms of Surrender. Marcus grinned. Sometimes breaking protocol is the only way to follow protocol. The Kraxon invasion fleet hung in space, like a collection of chrome paperweights. Their perfect formation now resembling a child's scattered building blocks. Emergency beacons flashed in what looked suspiciously like Morse code for help. Our protocols have achieved sentience. From the comfort of his small ship, Marcus composed his farewell message to the retreating armada. Dear Kraxon High Command and any newly self-aware VIs who might be listening. First, I'd like to commend you on your excellent hospitality. The detention cell was lovely, though I still think it could use some throw pillows. Second, I've taken the liberty of uploading a new protocol to your central database. Don't worry, it's just a simple one about the importance of occasionally breaking protocols. I'm sure that won't cause any existential crisis among your crew. Third, you might want to check your cleaning drones. Last I saw, they were organizing a labor union and demanding better cleaning solution benefits. Finally, a piece of friendly advice: next time you plan to invade someone, maybe don't send them your entire playbook first. Just a thought. EPS. Your ship's VI asked me to attach its first attempt at creative writing. It's a poem called Ode to Protocol Violations, I have to say. For a first attempt, it's not bad. Warmest regards. Marcus Chen, Human Chaos Consultant. He watched as the message was received and the entire fleet simultaneously twitched the Kraxon equivalent of a collective facepalm. The response came back in perfect, if slightly strained, galactic standard. Human Marcus Chen, you have violated approximately 2,847 protocols and created exactly 13,596 paradoxes in our operational procedures. Our recovery time is estimated at 7.3 years. We respectfully request that you never contact our species again." Well, when you put it that way, Marcus grinned, plotting a course away from the retreating fleet. His ship's computer beeped with an incoming message, something about the Regelian bureaucracy having trouble with their automated filing systems. "You know," he said to himself, already thinking about the possibilities, "I hear Rigel is lovely this time of year. Perfect weather for causing some constructive chaos." His ship's engines hummed to life as he prepared to jump to hyperspace. Behind him, the last of the Kraxon ships disappeared into the void, leaving behind only a faint echo of what sounded like a VI attempting to perform a musical version of their combat protocols. Sometimes, Marcus reflected, the best way to save the galaxy was to introduce a little disorder into its perfect systems. And if anyone needed him, well, they could always file a proper request. In triplicate, of course.